Your feelings are not valid. Story 2.
Mother-in-law was angry she wasn't invited to a girls' night out, so she made my life hell afterwards. I guess I won the lottery when the universe gave me a mother-in-law from hell. I know they are abundant on earth, so I'm getting rid myself of one. I'd even throw in her precious son just so she could leave me alone. Martha is the type who peaked in high school and has been trying to chase the same high ever since. I had been dating her only son, Ray, for a couple of years before I got pregnant. I had reservations about Ray because while I loved him, I felt that I wasn't enough for him. But I got pregnant. And something about his traditional values forced him to marry me. Well, we loved each other, and we thought we were heading this way anyway, so this just sped things up. There is one disagreement that we often had, though. His mom was the type to insert herself in every situation that didn't involve her at all. This was especially true when it came to my relationship with her son. For example, on the first Christmas I spent with him and his family, she threw a fit when she saw that he gave me a necklace. Mind you, the necklace wasn't that expensive, but it's also not fancy, so it wasn't that cheap either for a couple who had only been going out for several months. The air was visible tense after she, jokingly, told her son that he gave his newest floozy something that he should be giving his mom instead. For context, we gave her a nice handbag, one that she had been hinting at him to get her. There were multiple times when she showed up in clothes very similar to what I had been wearing the last time she saw me. I once showed up in a really nice coat that was a gift from my sister. It cost more than I would have been comfortable paying myself, but as I said, it was a gift. Martha noticed it when Ray and I attended his sister's graduation dinner. The very next weekend, she invited us to dine out. There she was wearing the same coat. I did not ask if it was the same brand, she told me herself that it was. Apparently, it was a gift from her son, aka my boyfriend. When I asked him about it later, he said his mom really liked my coat, so he bought her one, with her prodding, of course. There was another time when I wore an admittedly sexy dress when Ray and I went out for our anniversary. I posted it on my socials, tagging him. A few days later, I saw on my timeline that she was wearing the same dress. I pointed this out to Ray, but he just told me it was a coincidence. I brushed it off because if I didn't, I would look petty. It's not just clothing. I got into doing bento lunches when watching YouTube videos of it. I bought those lunch boxes made for bento for us and made myself and Ray lunch following instructions from videos. I thought I did so well. Ray didn't say much about it, but he also didn't complain. It was a simple lunch but made look cuter. I posted them on my socials, not thinking about the drama that would ensue later. Ray's sister later messaged me to warn me about their mother's post. She doesn't get along well with her. I checked it and wouldn't you know it? It's full of veiled comment about our bento lunches. She posted the same food but set in bigger lunchbox that looked more adult appropriate. She said something like her children deserved real food prepared properly, not something that was played with like a toy. There was no name mentioned, but it's really hard not to think it wasn't about me when she never prepared lunchboxes for years and then suddenly, just after I posted what I made, she wanted to show the world how it was done. I confronted my boyfriend about it. She said don't pay any attention to it and just take the high road. His mom was just being a mom, whatever that means. And so I didn't. I figured that it would kill her to see I wasn't reacting to her digs. Those were just a few examples of how I felt like she's copying me or outright competing with me. And for what? For her son? That shouldn't even be a contest because we were each coming from different places of love. Her husband died just after Ray finished college. For all her married life, Martha was a stay-at-home mom. And therefore she had very strong opinions on me working. I wasn't even married to her son then yet. Also, her son wasn't earning as much as I was, so why would I want to stop working? When we found out we were pregnant and decided to get married, Martha doubled down on wanting me to change my mind about returning to work after I gave birth. Something about a woman's calling was to be a mother, and the fastest way to have a broken family was an absentee mother. She said I shouldn't be so selfish as to choose my career over my family, which was so ridiculous. Planning my wedding was a nightmare in of itself. Martha vetoed every decision her son and I came up with, saying it was either too expensive or too cheap, too garish or too plain, too impractical or still not enough. I had to put my foot down and told her that we had already decided on everything and there was no changing our minds anymore. She wasn't too happy being excluded like that. She wasn't also happy when I went dress shopping with my mother and did not include her. I knew she would be impossible to please if I let her join us. And besides, I had already set my eyes on a particular gown. I just wanted my mom's support while there. I never showed her the dress I bought, no matter how persistent she was in demanding that I showed it to her. When my maid of honor planned a bachelorette party in an upscale bar for me and my few bridesmaids, Ray's sister was included, Martha made a stink of not being invited. She found out about it the next day when her daughter posted the photos online. I thought she would just sulk and make another post about being excluded on Facebook, but she took it a step further this time. She called her son and cried to him about me deliberately making her feel excluded. She cried about me driving a wedge between her and her son. She cried about me making her jealous, of what, I have no idea. Basically, she cried to my fiancé that I was a monster. Ray had never been one to stand up to his mother. He let her cry and even agreed with her. He later said he just had to agree so she would stop crying. And besides, it wasn't like she could do anything else, right? That pissed me off because he didn't even try to defend me. He just gave in again and made me seem like the bad guy, as always. But I thought he was right. She might be pissy, but it was over. She couldn't do anything about it anymore. Oh, how wrong I was. I think while she already didn't like me, that exclusion from my bachelorette was the trigger for her all-out war on me. Wedding planning was a disaster from the start. Every decision Ray and I made was covertly sabotaged by his mother. I requested pink carnation but got red ones. I had all music lined up for every step of the event, but they were all wrong. The first instance that the band played the wrong song, my coordinator had to step in and gave them an earful. Then she found out that even the songs for our couple first dance and my father-daughter dance were all replaced. I asked for several vegetarian menu for myself and for a few other guests. There was none. Good thing my coordinator was so efficient. The vegetarian dishes were back before I even got to react. I only got to know of it after the fact. Every supplier was contacted by Martha, claiming to be my representative, telling them about the changes and that she should be contacted if there were questions. Martha also came in white. It's not just a white mother of the groom type of dress. It was her own wedding dress when she married her husband. My husband didn't think it was malicious, telling me that her mother just wanted to honor us by reminiscing her own wedding day. The mental gymnastics he had to go through just to give me that excuse. I should have called off the wedding then or at least got an annulment the next day. My sister-in-law tried to get her mother to change but the old dragon really wanted to steal the show. My photographer just either excluded her from the pictures or edited them to make her look like she was wearing bright yellow, making her look sickly. Side note, this is why reliable wedding suppliers are important. They have your back. That was just the wedding. She also held a baby shower without me. How she did that, I don't know. But it was her son and her friends in attendance. As for why my husband attended it without me, he didn't know it was a baby shower. Martha just called him to say she needed help with something. And my dear husband decided to stay in the party. She also tried barging in the delivery room. I only allowed my husband in. Even my own mother understood that she would have to wait outside. But no, not Martha. She demanded to be let in because her grandson must see her first. The nurses shut her up real quickly. My parents also told her to take a hike. She wailed outside the room, claiming the injustice that we forced her to face. My husband was ready to let her in, but the nurses stopped him from doing so. They told her that if she opened that door, he would also be kicked out. He grumbled non-stop, telling me that I was being unfair. My head nurse had had it enough. She told him to shut up or leave the room. Honestly, I wanted him gone from my room after that, but he shut up. Don't you just love supportive nurses? The last straw was a few months after I gave birth and I caught a flu maybe from work. I didn't want my baby to catch it so I asked my husband to care for him while I isolate in the spare room. I wasn't expecting him to take care of me as well, I already knew that he wouldn't do that. I just wanted him to be a father for once and care for our child. He wasn't happy with being saddled with babysitting, as he put it, but he did go home early to do so. He didn't even check on me, but as long as my baby is okay, then I wasn't complaining. I slept for a couple of hours before I got woken by my phone ringing. My husband so kindly called me to say that he was rushing to his mom's side because she had an emergency of sorts. I asked him who was minding our son. He said our son was sleeping and he would be just a few minutes gone. I screamed at him to get back immediately. He said his mom was having a breakdown and needed her only son there. I told him our only son also needed him. He called me selfish because our son at least had another parent, me, while his mother was all alone in the world. When I asked why he couldn't bring our son there at least, he told me his mother wanted him there and him only. His mother knew I was sick and that Ray was taking care of him. She didn't care. Also, I already knew then but confirmed later on that she was just faking it. Why would she fake having a nervous breakdown knowing full well that her son was taking care of his own son? Because of exactly that. She knew that I needed help from her son and she couldn't let me hog all his attention. Never mind that it's her grandson who really needed help. In her mind, I needed help and care and his son was giving them to me, and she couldn't let that happen. I told Ray that if he didn't return home this instance, he could forget about us. He told me that I should rein in my jealousy of his mom. He hung up on me. I called my parents for help. They arrived immediately. My dad got my son and his things and drove him to their house, while my mom helped me get my own things and drove to their house in my car. Divorce had been lingering on my mind for some time now, so it wasn't a surprise to myself that I wanted it as soon as possible. My soon-to-be ex called me when he finally returned to our home the next day. He screamed at me for overreacting. He again called me jealous of his mother. I asked why he thought that. He said it's because they had a special bond and I couldn't break it. I told him that's okay. I wasn't interested in breaking their Oedipus relationship. He called me sick. I must admit, I smiled while he was screaming his lungs out. He sounded just like his mother. How did I not notice that before? I knew Martha's call would come soon. I could just ignore her call, give myself peace, be the bigger person, etc., etc. Not happening. For the first time, I wanted to not be the bigger person and ignore the onslaught of abuse from her. And for the last time, I wanted to see her explode again. I readied my laptop and by the time my phone rang, I turned on Facebook Live. I hadn't even said hello when Martha's ear-splitting voice was broadcast live. She screamed at me for being jealous of her unbreakable bond with her son. It's so funny because her son also said the exact same thing to me not even an hour ago. She also called me names, but that's expected. What wasn't expected was her admitting how much she hated my guts since the first time she saw me. She said I had been luring her son away from her, but her son wasn't blind because he would never love me as much as he loved her. She said a lot more other things, including admitting she called Ray pretending to be having an emergency just so I would be left alone and helpless. I just let her speak, let my friends watching my live hear her. And finally, I just said that I was returning her precious son to her. I got so many messages from my friends and family after that. Most of them were supportive, but there were a few, mostly from Ray's side of the family, asking me to be more understanding because Martha felt she was losing her son. Some called me vindictive and that they could see why Martha wanted his son away from me. I loved every minute of their pleas and attacks. Martha's feelings of abandonment was not valid. No one was taking away her son from her. She just hated the competition. I never competed with her. And now with our divorce already final and me having the full custody of my son, Martha can have her son all to herself.
If you like the story, please give it a thumbs up. Share the video and subscribe for more. Click the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos. Thank you very much.